INS Vikrant represents the aircraft carrier step of an ambitious domestic naval shipbuilding program of the Indian Navy. Naturally, India has experienced many problems in this project, as other beginners did before. There are still some challenges that have to be overcome. As the weapon detective, we're now investigating the INS Vikrant, the courageous representative of the New World. INS Vikrant is the first indigenous aircraft carrier of the Indian Navy. Although the ship was commissioned in 2022, she has to wait to be operational. Before we analyze INS Vikrant, let's briefly look at the history and features of this aircraft carrier. The first INS Vikrant, a Majestic-class aircraft carrier, was decommissioned in 1997, which meant only INS Virat was left. But according to the naval threat perception of India, the Navy had to have at least 3 carriers, one ship for the east, one ship for the west coast, and one for reserve. So, Delhi authorized Project 71 Air Defense Ship, or shortly ADS, Indigenous Aircraft Carrier Development and Construction Program in 1999. Initially, India planned to build a light carrier with a fully loaded displacement of about 17,000 tons. However, after a careful assessment, the Indian Navy realized it needed a larger vessel. In 2003, Delhi formally approved the program and tasked the Directorate of Naval Design of the Indian Navy with design works. Also, the Italian Fincantieri company began to provide consultancy for the design works, while the Russian Nevskaya Design Bureau helped design the aviation facilities. 3 years later, the Navy changed the project name from ADS to Indigenous Aircraft Carrier, or shortly IAC. Initially, India planned to use ABA-grade steel made in Russia on the carrier. But due to delivery delays, it tasked the Defense Metallurgical Research Laboratory and Steel Authority of India Limited to develop and produce DMR 249 grade steel in India. The Cochin Shipyard Limited, or shortly CSL, was appointed as the builder. The keel of INS Vikrant was laid on February 28, 2009. The hull of the carrier was floated out of its dry dock on December 29, 2011. INS Vikrant was launched on August 12, 2013 and undocked on June 10, 2015. The CSL completed all major structural and outfitting works in 2020. The vessel successfully passed harbor and basin trials in the same year. She was commissioned on September 2, 2022. In the early 2023, flight trials began, after which the ship will be fully operational. INS Vikrant is the first naval ship completely using domestically produced steel. The ship has a high level of autonomous controls for crews, machinery, and damage control. India produced the LM 2500 gas turbines of the INS Vikrant under license. Tata Advanced Systems developed the ship's combat management system. It is the first combat management system developed by a private company for the Indian Navy. The flight deck, which has a 12,500 square meters area, connects to hangars via 2 elevators in front and rear of the island. The ship is fitted with a ski jump with an inclination angle of 14 degrees on the bow. INS Vikrant uses the short takeoff but arrested recovery, or shortly STOBAR system. The launching pad of the INS Vikrant extends from the left rear of the hull to the right front, and the angled deck intersects in an X shape. It is the same design used on the Russian-made carrier INS Vikramatya of the Indian Navy and RFNS Admiral Flota Sovietskого Soyuza Kuznetsov of the Russian Navy. This layout makes it difficult or even impossible to simultaneously launch and land aircraft for safety reasons. INS Vikrant can carry an air group of up to 36 aircraft, including 26 fixed-wing combat aircraft. We will mention the possible jet fighters used on the carrier in our analysis section. The Indian Navy will deploy a mix of Dhruv Mark III, MH-60 Romeo, and Ka-31 helicopters onto the carrier. The Dhruvs will perform search and rescue operations, while the MH-60 Romeos will be used for anti-submarine warfare. The Ka-31s will give INS Vikrant airborne early warning capability. The complement of INS Vikrant is 1,645 people. Its fully loaded displacement is 45,000 tons. The ship has a length of 262 meters, a beam of 62 meters, and a draught of 8.4 meters. Four 27,750 horsepower General Electric LM 2500 gas turbines provide a maximum speed of 30 knots. The range of INS Vikrant is 15,000 kilometers, in other words 8,000 nautical miles. The ship is fitted with Elta ELM 2248 MF Star and the Selex RIN 40L radars, the Shakti electronic warfare suite, the Gavach anti-missile decoy system, and the Marich advanced torpedo defense system. The armament of INS Vikrant consists of a 32-cell vertical launching system for the Barak 8 air defense missiles and four 30mm 6-barreled AK-630 close-in weapon systems. The S-band ELM 2248 MF Star active electronically scanned array radar of the INS Vikrant can perform surveillance and fire control functions. It can detect, identify, and track fighter-sized aircraft at a range of 250 kilometers and missiles from a range of 25 kilometers. The radar can track more than 100 targets simultaneously. The L-band Selex RIN 40L 3D long-range maritime air surveillance and early warning radar can track and detect air targets like aircraft or drones at 400 kilometers. INS Vikrant has a 32-cell vertical launching system for the Barak 8 air defense missiles. Its effective range is between 0.5 to 100 kilometers. Its maximum effective altitude is about 16,000 meters, in other words 52,490 feet. The top speed of Barak 8 is Mach 2. Initially, the Indian Navy planned to equip the carrier with the 76mm Super Rapidos. But INS Vikrant now has the 30mm 6-barreled AK-630 close-in weapon systems with a rate of fire of 5,000 rounds per minute. Its effective range is about 5,000 meters. Why did India decide to develop an indigenous aircraft carrier in 1999? First, when the Indian Navy decommissioned the INS Vikrant in 1997, there was no available second-hand carrier to be acquired as a real option. Yes, India bought the RFNS Admiral Flota Sovietskого Soyuza Gurshkov in 2004, but the conversion of this ship would continue for too long. She was renamed INS Vikramatya and commissioned in 2013. It was too costly and a long-running program. Even if India accepted this expense and long waiting time once more, there was no similar ship. So, acquiring a newly built carrier was a necessity. Why did India not buy a new ship from abroad? The Royal Thai Navy had preferred the HTMS Chakri Narube built in Spain. This carrier was based on the SPS Príncipe de Asturias of the Spanish Navy. The Sea Harrier FRS 51s were near the end of their service life. And the F-35 was struggling with many problems. Even if the USA agreed to India's participation in the JFS program, Delhi still had distant relations with the West. So, the F-35 was not an option. The new carrier of the Indian Navy should have the catapult-assisted takeoff but arrested recovery, or the short takeoff but arrested recovery system. No Western shipbuilders could offer a base model carrier for the Indian Navy's requirements at that time. Having a brand new carrier designed by Western shipyards would also result in high costs and long waiting times for India. So, it was the right time to initiate an indigenous aircraft carrier program for India, which had already reached a certain level in naval ship design and building. And the last reason was the obvious one: national pride. The indigenous aircraft carrier program of India experienced many delays. Many may assume designing such a vessel is not an overcomplicated job for India. After all, it has a naval ship design and building capability at a certain level. Designing a carrier is indeed not a problem for a country like India. The problem is to design an efficient one. During the First Cold War, the Soviet Union worked on many carrier programs. It designed and built the Kiev and Kuznetsov classes. These ships were big and had high combat capabilities, but their aviation capabilities were far from their Western counterparts, especially compared to the US carriers. China bought many decommissioned carriers to study them in the 1980s and 1990s. Later, it purchased the uncompleted Varyak and then completed her. Using the experiences that came from the Liaoning, China built Shandong. Despite all these efforts, the People's Liberation Army Navy does not have a carrier with similar aviation capabilities as the Western ones. So, designing an efficient carrier was also a big challenge for India. As we mentioned in our Tejas video, India has some unique political, historical, and social baggage, which makes it hard to execute a military program. It does not have the resources, infrastructure, and know-how of Western countries. However, in the last 20 years, the Western countries, which have better resources, infrastructure, and know-how, have struggled with many crucial delays in their military programs. Some of them even failed. From this perspective, despite the delays, India is doing well. Also, INS Vikrant will provide invaluable know-how for the future Indian aircraft carrier, INS Vishal. But designing and building a vessel is not the only problem in this program. Even though INS Vikrant is now on the sea, India has to solve its new naval fighter issue. Initially, the Indian Navy planned to deploy the MiG-29Ks and the naval variants of the Tejas onto this carrier. But a twin-seat MiG-29 UKB crashed during testing in Russia before delivery to India. This bad start caused second thoughts in the Indian naval staff. In 2016, India's National Auditor CAG criticized the Fulcrum D's engines, airframes, and fly-by-wire system defects. The serviceability of MiG-29K was also too low. Also, the naval variant of the Tejas could not meet the Navy's requirements. So, HAL began to work on the more capable TED-BF. The prototype of this aircraft is expected to be ready by 2026 and its production will start by 2032. As an interim solution, the Indian Navy plans to acquire 26 new fighters. The current candidates are the Rafale M and F/A-18EF Super Hornet. In 2022, the Indian Navy began testing these two aircraft at a shore-based test facility at INS Hassa in Goa. Still, a MiG-29K and a naval variant of the Tejas conducted landing and takeoff trials on the INS Vikrant on February 6, 2023. Until either the Rafale M and F/A-18EF is chosen and delivered, INS Vikrant will operate the MiG-29Ks. Why does INS Vikrant use the STOBAR system? When India initiated the Project 71 air defense ship program in 1999, its primary partner in the naval project was Russia. As mentioned before, the Russian Nevskaya Design Bureau helped design the aviation facilities of the INS Vikrant. This company did not have the catapult-assisted takeoff but arrested recovery system technology. Also, this system requires many extra gears that increase the weight while reducing usable space. But the Indian Navy is considering using an electromagnetic aircraft launch system on the next carrier, INS Vishal. Vikrant means courageous in Sanskrit, and this name suits India's Indigenous aircraft carrier design and construction program. Despite some delays and the ongoing problems, INS Vikrant is a symbol of the level that Indian naval shipbuilding capabilities reached. Thanks for watching our video, and please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the bell button to be notified of our new videos. Also, you can now click the join button to support our channel. And as always, we would greatly appreciate all of your likes, comments, and shares.